Well, hi everyone. I'm John Rethlin with a double review of two more Netflix originals, Airplane Mode, a British comedy, sort of, and Love, Wedding, Repeat, a British comedy with Italian people in it as well. I'm going to tell you right now that while I didn't mind either of these movies, there was one that I was a little bit harsher on than the other, and that was Airplane Mode. I'll get into that here in a little bit, but like any multi-movie reviews that I do, there will be spoilers throughout. So, Airplane Mode. You got a girl that's a, social media moogle or mogul. You know what? Moogle. I would like her to be a moogle. If she was a Brazilian moogle, I would have liked that a whole lot more because we need more Final Fantasy characters up in this bitch. In all honesty, she is a mogul. She is, or an immortal. I don't actually know because, you know what? Maybe there's something in the Brazilian water that makes her immortal or makes her a goddamn kind of vapid idiot. Look, and I'm referring to the character. The casting is fine in this. She is a young girl that is very addicted to social media and to her phone to the point she's crashing cars because comedy and women drivers, am I right? I'm assuming that's what they're going for, or that she's so damn caught up in the clouds, head in the clouds and everything, that she decides to just crash her car all the goddamn time. Or maybe this is funny in Brazil. I really have no idea, and I think this is an example of comedy working in another country as opposed to working here in America. Something doesn't quite translate, but anyway, eventually it gets to where things don't work out with her boyfriend. It turns out the people she's working for want her and her boyfriend, even though they're broken up, to like have this weird lie going on. But then she gets in a car accident and is suddenly in a hospital, and her parents fabricate something to have her go live with her grandfather where there is no technology except for a few people to have a phone, and it takes her a while to get unaddicted from cell phone technology. But then, instead of being this, person that's all addicted to photogram, no, really, that's what they call it. Maybe that's what it's called in Brazil. I have no idea. But instead of being addicted to Instagram and being this social media icon and this fashion designer, she decides to live a rustic lifestyle and live with her grandfather that actually is a pretty endearing guy, and he helps her learn how to live, with some technology, but live in a small town. And she falls for a guy that happens to be there, and oh, everything's going good. So she does this to avoid any court and any jail time. Except it turns out that the parents have been lying to her this whole damn time, and that this is just a whole setup that they had and everybody was in on it. So apparently the parents are just, they work for the Brazilian FBI or something, and they are just able to pay a bunch of people to help their daughter learn a whole bunch of life lessons that they could have probably done if they just wouldn't have had everybody in on it and just had the grandfather and the guy she falls for and the various other characters just be, oh, I don't know, good people. But nope, we gotta do a whole bunch of lies. So instead of her learning not to live a lie and live, and figure out who she is, they fabricate this whole thing so she gets that, and then she goes back to living her lifestyle in the city. Oh, but during the time that she's living in this rustic city, she learns about her grandmother and develops some clothing line of her own. Well, her boss happens to come by and steal her ideas. And literally within 10 minutes, she's back in the city, living her life and everything, and can't work for that same agency, but then finds out her ideas get stolen. And suddenly she's back with her family, doing all this and everything with her grandfather. And everybody's reunited, and she manages to, expose this boss as being the vile bitch that she is. Sometimes the comedy works, and I will admit that some of the movie is a bit endearing. The problem is the movie is horribly cliched. Absolutely horribly cliched. Not the worst thing in the world. Again, the acting it's fine. It's fine. It is typical. It's inoffensive, but it's just also very cliche. So I can't go higher than a C. That's really where I have to go right there. Now, it's not bad, but it's not necessarily great. She does learn to have technology, but not be addicted to it. And even the grandfather gets technology, so everybody's taking selfies at the end on Photogram and all this. And yeah, it's pretty generic. So anyway, you know what? I'd recommend if you like these kind of movies. It's inoffensive. It's not necessarily something you're going to remember. I struggled to remember anything to get this review to just about 5 minutes. But anyway, now let's move on to something that I actually didn't mind. Love, Wedding, Repeat. You have Olivia Munn and Freida Pinto in it. I mean, right there, that's a 1-2 punch of beauty and good acting right there. So I don't really know what else you need. There There was also the girl that was in the Jack the Giant Slayer remake, and a very beautiful Irish girl, Irish woman that's in this that falls for one of the guys that's at this wedding. So the idea is it's apparently a wedding in Rome. You have this character Jack. His sister's getting married, and well, there's a whole bunch of weird stuff that goes on. And this has alternate timelines of what happens if one thing gets changed around here? Could one person end up getting with somebody they weren't going to originally get to, or they weren't originally going to get with? Can somebody blow their chance? What can actually happen? The problem is it takes a bit to get to the alternate timelines. It takes not close to an hour. I mean, at least half the movie. And then it kind of goes with this whole thing where they flash back and, oh no, it's going to be this timeline. And now people that do these decisions, everything's tweaked a little bit. And you still get characters that are varying degrees of like good and in-depth and extremely annoying. When you're mixing British comedy with Italian people, so sometimes it can be a little bit weird because you got, a British girl marrying into an Italian family. There's some good endearing acting about this, and it all comes down to Jack wanting to get with Olivia Munn's character, Dina. Which, to be fair, have you seen Olivia Munn? How could you not want to get with Olivia Munn? I mean, how could you not jump at the chance if you have a connection with her? But I digress. Freida Pinto plays or I believe that's how you say her name. I'm sorry if I got that wrong. She plays the ex, or Jack's ex, and they didn't have the best relationship, but she also still, she cares about him, but it's obvious that they were toxic for each other. And there's also there's another jealous guy of the bride that may try to ruin the wedding because he may have more feelings for her than she has for him, even though she's getting married. And typical stuff of, he's just trying to get with Dina. He just wants to tell her how she feels. And every time he keeps getting interrupted, and he's always doing everything for everybody else, helping out his sister, helping out his best friend, Brian, who ends up getting with this Irish girl that he knows a little bit later. And there's some good endearing stuff about it. Some of the comedy works, some of the comedy doesn't. It is very typical, very atypical, and very cliched. But overall, the themes are a lot better than they were in Airplane Mode. One, this has a crisper look to it. It's not necessarily while it is cliche, it has a little more heart to it. The first one was a bit, in the first part of it, it took a bit to get into, really. And then when they got to the alternate stuff, you got to where, okay, now everything's going good for everybody else, and Jack has this, chips are down thing. His sister found out about this ex that was there and said, here, I have some sleeping drops. Put them in the champagne glass and he'll get drugged. And then they go through all these timelines where first, the best friend's drugged and then other people get drugged and everything. And then where Jack's drugged and he has to fight through all this stuff and show Dina that he cares while helping everybody else like he always does. And eventually, everything works out at the wedding, except she has to leave because she's a reporter of some description, or she does something where she has to go to war-torn countries and help out however she can. And she ends up leaving. Well, they end up finally kissing, thank God, because I was about to give this movie I wasn't exactly about to give it a downgrade. I don't expect happy-go-lucky, wrapped in a nice little bow endings. But I prefer stuff where, it's like, hey, if you build up to something like this, at least give us something. I'm not saying they got to get together and have kids, for God's sakes. But if you're going to have this kind of movie, at least have it, they got together, cool, all right, it worked out, good. And he stood up for himself by telling some guy to fuck off. That is true love. If it isn't, I don't know what is. So, while the movie is not perfect, and I readily admit that this movie is cliched as well, it has its moments. It's fine. It's fine. And the acting is pretty good and everything. So I'm going to say B-. I was ready to go C. I was ready to go to a C, and I was like, okay, they paid it off at the end. I'll go up at least half a grade. So there we go. So B. So that's the end of those notes. By the way, go watch 18 Presents if you haven't yet. But these movies are inoffensive. Love, Wedding, Repeat certainly isn't that bad. But yeah, go watch 18 Presents, my favorite movie. That and Portrait of a Lady on Fire are neck and neck as far as, my favorite movies of the year so far. So anyway, agree, disagree with what I said. Like, share, subscribe. Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Rethland. I'll see you soon.